Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Please. Kama, Vesha, Bhayat, Snehat, Jata, Bhaktya, Ishvare, Manaha, Avesha, Tat, Agham, Hitva, Bahavaha, Tat, Gatim, Gataha, Kama, Dveshad, Bhayat, Snehad, Yatha Bhaktyeshvare Manaha, Aveshatad Agam Hitva, Bhavastad Gatim Gataha, Kamadveshad Bhayat Snehad, Yatha Bhaktyeshvare Manaha, Aveshatad Agam Hitva, Bhavastad Gatim Gataha, Kamadveshad Bhayat Snehad, Yatha Bhaktyeshvare Manaha, Aveshatad Agam Hitva, Bhavastad Gatim Gataha, Kamadveshad Bhayat Snehad, Yatha Bhaktyeshvare Manaha, Aveshatad Agam Hitva, Bhavastad Gatim Gataha. Kamat, from lust, Dveshat, from hatred, Bhayat, from fear, Snehat, from affection, yata, as well as, bhaktya, by devotion, Ishvare, in the Supreme, manaha, the mind, avesha, absorbing, tat, of that, agam, sin, itva, giving up, bahavaha, many, tat, of that, gatim, path of liberation, kataha, attain. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon Him. This is a very amazing, heavy section of the Bhagavatam. It's very amazing, but this is especially very amazing section of the Bhagavatam, where you can say, Narada Muni here is revealing the absolute nature, in one sense, of Krishna's mercy. This is due to the inquiry of Parikshit Maharaj from Shukadeva Goswami, who was a little, for the sake of, let's say, people in general, inquired about Krishna's equality. Is he really equal to everyone? It appears that he favors the demigods against the demons. So what is this equality? So then Shukadeva Goswami discusses a little bit, and then he recites, or he narrates this incident of the Rajasuya sacrifice when Yudhishthira Maharaj was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, and at that time, of course, he installed Krishna as like the most respectable person at that event, and that wasn't very much appreciated by Shishupal. Shishupal didn't like it very much. He got a little upset. And he and his brother Dantavakra, they were expert blasphemers. There was no limit. Well, there was a limit actually, because if Shishupal had he would have been dead long ago. But he had a benediction that he could blaspheme up to, I think it was 99 times in one shot. But if he went beyond that, then he would be finished. So he lost count of his blasphemy in the Rajasuya sacrifices. He was bad-lipping Krishna left, right and center. And he reached 100, and that was one too many. So Krishna gave him his mercy, and very mercy. Just like we heard yesterday, the pastime of Krishna, when he entered into Mathura. You may know when Krishna entered into Mathura, and after Krura brought him to Mathura and went home, Krishna took his friends and they went for a walk in the city to check it out, see the sights, Opera House and Sydney Bridge and whatever else was to be seen. And when they were walking through the city, of course, everyone was absolutely captivated by Krishna, practically everyone. As he walked through the streets, the ladies were all overwhelmed as they stood on the rooftops to see Krishna pass by. But there was one gentleman, a great gentleman, there was one man, he happened to be a servant of King Kans. And he was a washer man. He was the man who did the king's clothes, dyeing them and cleaning them and preparing them and so on. He happened to be walking by with his assistants carrying some of the king's clothes. So Krishna said, "Oh, my dear sir, please, can you kindly give me some of these very nice clothes. We can adorn ourselves with suitable dress, and they're just suitable for us. And the washerman didn't take it very well. Just like Shishupal didn't take it very well. The washerman said, "You arrogant boys, who do you think you are? You wander in the forest and the hills, like, outcasts practically speaking. You come here and you expect to wear the king's clothes? If you speak like this, you will very soon be punished." And Krishna, he reacted a little bit angrily, and with his fingertips, he just severed the washerman's head. And he was dead. Just with his fingertips. Talk about, what's this? Martial arts. Krishna's, he's expert in all the martial arts, so be careful. And he just severed the washerman's head. And finished him. Of course, he was killed by Krishna. He got liberated. Then he went to there was a tailor also there, got Krishna's mercy, and Sudama, the florist. They reciprocated differently. They all got Krishna's mercy. The washerman, the whole lot got Krishna's mercy. Anyone who's fortunate to see Krishna at the time of death, whether, as this verse says, whatever it may be, whether lusty feelings, inimical feelings, as with the washerman, fear as with Kamsa, lust as with Kukja, also in Mathura. Many of these instances, because in Mathura, when Krishna entered in, you can see when he entered into the Dana Yogi arena, where the wrestling event was taking place, that different people saw him differently. Krishna simply reciprocates according to us. He's not actually discriminating, really. He's just, as the moon and sun don't exactly discriminate, they simply, according to our relationship with them, the sun and the moon appear greater or lesser, or present or not present. It's due to our position, not the sun and the moon exactly. But similarly with Krishna, he's there. He's there for everyone. But he reciprocates differently. With some he appears as death personified. Others he appears in so many different ways. The material cosmos, the impersonal Brahman, an inconceivable personality, an ordinary person. So many different ways people may see God or see Krishna. Accordingly he reciprocates. And we'll try to discuss that a little bit in a minute, if Krishna wills. And in the purport, Narada Muni carries on talking to Yudhishthira Maharaj, explaining the incident of Shishupal. Shukadev carries on how Yudhishthira was perplexed when he was in the Rajasuya after Krishna killed Shishupal. He personally saw Shishupal merge into the body of Krishna. The same happened to Shishupal's, to Dandavakra, Shishupal's brother, also merged into the body of Krishna. Some of these demons, and you see that the word is Adam and sinful, Agasura also merge into the body of Krishna. That often is seen by persons of the soul. So what is it that this is perplexing to Yudhishthira Maharaj? So he's asking this question now, Narada Muni is answering how these verses, I'll just read the previous 2 or 3 verses because they're really special verses. Narada Muni continued, by devotional service one cannot achieve such intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity toward Him. That is my opinion. So we're going to recommend you all develop enmity towards the Lord. It sounds like you can't achieve such intense absorption by devotion. Rather, through enmity you can be more absorbed. And practically, it's a fact almost. When you have enmity towards somebody, depending on the intensity, it can be, overwhelming, isn't it? You just can't get them off your mind. You dream about them. Wherever you go, there they are. They keep poking their nose up. It's like Krishna. If you're in the spiritual world, where can you go? If you have enmity towards Krishna, where are you going to go? He's everywhere. what worst thing could happen to you if the person you're trying to avoid pops up everywhere. And even if it's not there physically, mentally speaking, your mind is dwelling on it. And it can be more intense than if you have a favorable attachment to someone even. So it's like that this absorption. He's just actually answering that. Of course, there's a quality of the attachment, which is another subject. But the point being that Krishna is reciprocating with them, and even if they're, and at one time in Germany, when you probably heard this before, I'm sure they've told it, I don't have any new stories, I'm sorry, but in 1975 or whatever it was, in Germany, when the German government tried to close down ISKCON in Germany by every means they could, when they made sure that all the media issued all kinds of negative reports about ISKCON. The newspapers, the televisions were full of basically blasphemous statements. But everywhere the name Krishna was being spoken and written. All the newspapers, the main newspapers, were full of it. And in 5 minutes, they informed the entire population of Germany about Krishna. And in 10 years or whatever, not 10 years, but 8 years, the devotees had hardly touched the surface. So once indirectly, they did an amazing service. People were asking, what is this Hare Krishna? I've never heard of it. Millions of people were asking, what is this Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? What is it? They did, in one sense, indirectly, you could say, but they did an incredible activity. My brother saw the articles, one devotee brought them to probably in India or something. They brought them the newspaper article, all in German, of course. Prabhupada didn't read German. It's a terrible newspaper article. Srila Prabhupada looked at the newspaper articles and said, this is a wonderful articles. These are wonderful articles. Krishna's name's on every line practically. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj used to judge the literature by how many times the name Krishna was on it. Because not that we should become blasphemous, and some people do, that's not favorable. And the result of that is not quite the same. However, one does receive liberation and freedom by the Lord for such behavior. Now, purport, Sri Narada Muni, the topmost pure devotee, that's the wrong verse. Then the next verse, 28 and 29, a grass worm confined in a hole of a wall, this is yesterday's verse, some people would hear, some people not, by a bee, always thinks of the bee in fear and enmity, and later becomes a bee simply because of such remembrance. Good example, when we're stuck in this material world, so to speak, whatever we put before us, whatever our association is, that will reflect on our consciousness or our memory when we leave our body, mental platform. And that's what the intelligence will be focused on when we leave the body and taking us into the next journey, whatever that may be. Therefore, well, for instance, with the deities, for instance, if anyone has the opportunity to see the deity, whatever their thoughts are, that picture will be there somewhere in their subconsciousness when they leave the body. Prabhupada one time in Bombay, he said to the life members of Bombay, in the early days, when Prabhupada wanted to have a Rath Yatra festival in Bombay. He said, this Rath Yatra is so important festival, I want you to please help arrange it. And he said, because if anyone sees Lord Jagannath on the Rath Yatra card, during Rath Yatra, he said, when the time of death comes, along with all the other pictures which they've taken of the material world through their various sense organs, that picture of Jagannath will come up. And he said, when that picture of Jagannath comes up, it wipes out all the other pictures. Wipes them all out. Clean slate. Liberated from all that stuff. So powerful as chanting the holy name or seeing the form of the Lord. Somehow or another, the Lord reciprocates like that. They don't mean they go back to Godhead necessarily. Just like Janananda, at the time of his death, because he simply chanted the name of his son, Narayana. He didn't go back to Godhead. He was liberated. That's called Namabhas. By Namabhas chanting, one can get liberation, but that's the max. One has lead up to literal Brahman realization. What's fortunate or unfortunate, whichever way you look at it. But real objective is not that. Arjuna didn't go back to Godhead. He was liberated from his sinful activities. And because he had that realization at that time, he then gave up his sinful activity. He gave it up. They gave him a lease of life. He had more years. And he spent that time, he went to the holy hardware, place of hardware, Tirtha, holy Tirtha. And there he practiced Bhakti Yoga until he was perfected. When he was perfected, then the Vishnu Dudas came and took him back to Godhead. So definitely the Lord reciprocates. But he's not, he doesn't want to force someone to go back to Godhead. He doesn't want to go back to Godhead. It's not going to be too much for him. It's the same thing in Krishna consciousness. So as we feel forced, or we are forced to behave like someone else, we're not ready for it, it's too much for us. And we have to see what is relevant, what is appropriate for a particular adhikar eligibility, whether it's philosophy, speaking very simple subject matter, in one sense, relevant to us, we hope. When in another, like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was with the general masses of people, we wouldn't speak this on the street, to a person on the street, for instance. Or if you're giving a public lecture, you would maybe mention some of the basic things, but not some of the inconceivable, let's say, beyond the ability of materialistic persons to comprehend. We would not speak it. And Lord Chaitanya didn't speak amongst the general populace anything practically other than Canto, the holy name, spreading the holy name. He hardly spoke anything. Philosophy, very simple. Even in his discussion with most of his devotees, he mainly dwelt upon this section of Bhagavatam, Lord Nrsimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj, and Dhruva Maharaj. Those were his two main topics, because they are preparations, their activities. These activities are to remove, most of us have got anarthas, we've got material attachments. They've got to be removed before we can actually understand Krishna or enter into the spiritual realm. They have to be removed by various means. And one of the most primary means of that is, as this verse is saying, to hear about Krishna, whether positive or negative, whatever reason. But to hear about Krishna purifies or prepares the way for a spiritual progress. When thinking of him, the worship of the Lord, or an enemy, because of constantly thinking him, they will regain their spiritual bodies. It's a matter of time, but they regain their spiritual bodies. And today's verse we've already read, it's on the board, the English is on the board. English is on the board.
Yep, yes.
Purport, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-39. Come on, everybody must know that verse. 10:33-39. If anyone knows it, I take my seeker off, I'm going to take my hat off. It's actually quite a famous verse, but it's not one that's very often quoted Sanskrit-wise. Vikriditam bhajavaduviridam cha Vishnu Shraddhanvito nasrimayad atavanayat yaha Bhaktim param bhagavati patilabhya kamam If a bona fide listener hears of Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, which seem to be lusty affairs, the lusty desires in his heart, which constitute the heart disease of a conditioned soul, will be vanquished, and he will become a most exalted devotee of the Lord. So many amazing points Prabhupada is making here. If one who hears of the gopis' lusty behavior with Krishna becomes free from lusty desires, certainly the gopis who approached Krishna became free from all such desires. If by hearing about this pastime you become free of lusty desires, then how on earth or off the earth can the gopis, be accused of being lusty from a material perspective? It's not lust, it's love. Lust is the perverted reflection of love. When Krishna is completely in the center, It's not love, because when Krishna's in the center, it's for Krishna's pleasure. They wanted to go there for Krishna's pleasure. They prepared themselves for Krishna's pleasure. And that doesn't just mean the body, that means their very consciousness. Many of them couldn't go because their consciousness wasn't quite ready to go. There's a little bit more work to do before they were quite ready to actually go into the Rasa Lila. However, the intensity of the separation from it burned out all of their remaining, any tiny remnant of affection for anything but Krishna, or identification with anything but Krishna. The whole process is to become completely identified with Krishna by hearing from the right source. But Prabhupada mentions here, very important, bona fide listening. In other places he said, if actually what sometimes people, they don't hear, if they hear this subject matter, then lust actually becomes awoken in them. You have to be very careful, we have to see. Therefore you don't hear these things. And you hear the basic, just in the Bhagavatam it also says that one who's not actually able to control their lusty desires shouldn't go beyond the second canto, which represent the Lord's lotus feet. They should meditate on the lotus feet and become purified that way. So to hear these more, let's say, intimate or deeper pastimes, for the bona fide hearer, hearing from the bona fide speaker, it purifies the heart intensely. Prabhupada wanted us, he expected us to be bona fide hearers. He didn't expect us to be like dogs. He expected us to be bona fide hearers. And if we are hearing with attention, then our hearts will become cleansed of the understanding is that externally, yes, there's being control. Internally, you could say the roots, the seeds may still be there, but we're not watering them, or we're not trying to cultivate them. So such a person who hears this subject matter from the right source, with the right intention, bona fide intention, will become purified. Those who don't, there will still be some benefit there. It'll just be delayed. There'll be some, let's say, a little bit of a few, things in between. Maybe Krishna will give us a little bit of mercy in a different way until we wake up and give up our self-centered approach. We get to here. Be vanquished. Finish that. If a bona fide listener hears Krishna's pastimes with the gopas, which seem to be lusty affairs, the lusty desires in his heart, which constitute the heart disease, that's the heart disease. Many people think, well, I can't fulfill my lusty desires, that's the problem. But the actual problem is not that. The actual problem is that we're attached to these lusty desires. That's the disease. The disease is not even the lusty desire, it's our attachment to it. That's the disease. This Maya is not the problem. The problem is our attachment or identification with Maya. If we identify with Maya, Krishna reciprocates in that way through Maya. If one who hears the gopis' lusty behavior with Krishna becomes free from lusty desires, certainly we read that, but we definitely don't have. Similarly, Shishupal and others who were very much envious of Krishna and who constantly thought of Krishna became free from envy eventually. Krishna cut their envy off with the Sudarshan chakra. Which we can sometimes devotees pray that just as Shishupal was freed of envy, please also sever my envy, and so on. Envy is such a deep-rooted enemy of the living entity. And Krishna, even for devotees, we were discussing last night with a few devotees, how Krishna is actually doing everything he can to try to free us from our enemies. And sometimes we're doing everything we can to maintain our relationship. And he puts us in situations saying, damn it, why am I in this situation? Why is Krishna doing this to me? Why are these devotees talking to me like this? Don't you know who I am? Or whatever, the mind comes up with millions of different defense systems. And if we listen to the mind, and we're still be in the battlefield of the material world until we actually stop listening to the mind. We start understanding that Krishna is the supreme controller, and he's actually behind everything. He's trying to arrange situations, just like in the 10th Canto, Lord Brahma, in his prayers, Sridhar Maharaj, Sridhar Swami, the commentator, describes how Krishna puts his devotees in different situations which appear to be suffering, but are actually arranged by the Lord to remove the root cause of their attachment in this world, the very attachment to the mentality which causes us to behave in such a way that we remain in this world. Krishna is arranging situations to give us a chance to get to the root. Not just cut down the leaves, but to remove the very root itself. Not just to cut the grass and then one day later it grows up again. You've got to get the root out, not just on the surface. People sometimes, we forget that it's the root that has to, otherwise the thing will grow up again if we're not careful. It'll grow up again. And you've got to get that root out. We have to, only intensive, the prayer soul, intensive devotional service out to remove right down to the core, the very root of aga or sinful desire, lusty desire, and whatever it is. And the process of removing that is pure devotional service. Everything else is certainly beneficial in terms of mixed devotional service, animosity towards the Lord. All these things may have some, definitely have, some benefit, even if they're negative. They said Krishna's name. They'll get the benefit in the long run, but they'll have to go through a little bit more rectification or purification in most cases. Krishna can do anything he likes, but the general process is less. It's like Shishupal, of course that was officially his last birth in this material, where they had 3 births as demons. But still, he entered into Chaitanya Lila, he took birth again as Jai, and what was the name? Madai. When the mind is somehow or another fully absorbed in Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, and Mother Yasoda were fully absorbed in Krishna because of affection. That leads to a slightly different result. They all lead to, some kind of liberation, but that's the real liberation. When one has affection, sneha, when the mind is somehow or another fully absorbed in Krishna, the material part is very soon vanquished, like the sun removes darkness, Krishna Surya Samayaya Andhakara. The darkness is removed. Krishna hears him, someone says, Krishna, he said my name. He's very special, so even though he's an animosity, I have to reciprocate, but if he said my name. The Lord Chaitanya's mercy, the name of Krishna is everywhere, the name of Rama is everywhere. And in this way people are actually becoming liberated, even without our doing. This is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We just want to try to speed it up and to try to develop a mood of affection, not the mood of, negative mood of one kind or another. When the mind is so or another fully absorbed in Krishna, the material part is very soon vanquished, and the spiritual part, attraction to Krishna, becomes manifested. As we, Krishna, because we said earlier on, and the spiritual world, Krishna is everywhere, devotees are everywhere. What a terrible place to be when you've got something against someone, but everyone you meet is praising them and glorifying them. Everyone is in favor of that person and you're not. It's a pretty miserable, lonely situation. So Krishna doesn't want to punish us in that way, so as we all make. So therefore he gives us this material world where we can try to forget, where we do forget it by his arrangement. We can't forget it on our own. Krishna arranges the material world, and Maya's influence. We forget our real identity, and we forget Krishna. And we think we're in the center. Because we want to be in the center, we have some aversion towards Krishna, we're not showing affection. If a Krishna places us in the material world, we can show aversion. If we're really bad, he puts us in the Brahma Jyoti. That's like the worst of all place for an actual devotee is the Brahma Jyoti, or the liberated state. Is the last place a devotee ever wants to be, because there is no question, even in animosity, there's no presence of any form of let's say, connection with Krishna there. He's not consciously. This indirectly confirms that if one thinks of Krishna endlessly simply because of thinking of Krishna, he becomes free from all sinful reactions and thus becomes a pure devotee. It will just take some time, of course. Examples of this are given in the following verse. Examples are given. If one actually gets the opportunity to be killed directly by Krishna, that's kind of a very special good fortune. Anyway, this is the mercy of the Lord. He's simply reciprocating with us. It's not like, and even materially speaking, as the previous verses have also mentioned, In other words, the demigods are primarily affected or guided by the mode of goodness, whereas the demons are more by the mode of passion. The mode of goodness is more, I would say, prominent, or I say not prominent, but stronger at the moment. Overcomes the mode of passion or goodness in the big picture. So generally the demigods, being more influenced by the mode of goodness, they get overwhelmed by ignorance and passion, they lose. But when they're influenced by goodness, then they win. It's this Krishna reciprocating. And of course that's not happening by chance. It's not just that some people are endowed with one thing and some with another. That's due to the individual soul's, let's say, degree or of animosity or affection towards the Lord or the Lord's instructions. The demons don't like the Lord's instructions. They deny it. Whereas those who are devotional, they have some faith in the Lord's instructions, or the devotees, or they're a little pious in different ways according to the Shastra system or directive of piety. In the modern day world sometimes it's an interesting topic, but we see them as devotees. They don't appear to be manifesting particularly from a material perspective good qualities sometimes. They sometimes appear to be lusty, and sometimes angry, and sometimes may not be very compassionate, or many other qualities may not be manifesting from a material perspective in them. And sometimes we see in people in general who are not engaged in devotional service manifesting nice qualities. They may be very humble by material concept of humility, tolerant, and merciful, and kind-hearted, and self-controlled even to some extent. So maybe that's because that's a result of their karma. It's not their qualities. It's the result of the mode of a little bit of influence of goodness on them, that's all. And that will last for a little while, then the modes will change. It's not actually a permanent manifestation of spiritual qualities. It's only a reflection of those qualities through the modes of nature according to their karma and desire. So it's not their qualities, those qualities are the qualities ultimately coming from Krishna. In the material world they may be perverted in the three modes of nature, and they manifest accordingly. So Krishna is equal, and it's not that they're necessarily better than someone who's sinful from the absolute point of view. They're just temporarily, because of some good karma, manifesting some qualities which, relatively speaking, in this world of Maya, appear to be favorable. And if they're engaged in Krishna service, then of course they are favorable. But then again, a person in any mode of nature, if someone that connects with Krishna, then he's a fortunate soul. Even if he has been conditioned to the mode of passion and ignorance, he's far better situated than somebody who's, because of material reasons, is identified with or identifying with qualities which are purely material. Nothing to do with the soul directly, just that's the dress you're wearing right now, that dress happens to be this way and that way. But because people are so attached to the dress, they identify you as being a good person or a bad person. But absolutely speaking, everyone in the material world is in illusion. Everyone's it's just an illusion. Somebody puts a tiger's dress on us now, does that make us a tiger? We may think like that, and people may think like that, but does it make us a tiger? It's just a false covering of these qualities which manifest from the subtle plane through the gross plane, relatively seen by others, are just another manifestation, a combination of the three modes of nature or Maya. But we sometimes, because we also identify with it, we think, oh, they're very good, they're doing very good service. Devotees are not so good, or devotional service is not what's doing people, or these people are doing much better. They're opening hospitals, they're doing welfare work, they're being very kind to people, they're very personal. It's totally impersonal, it's totally based on the false identity of the mind and body. There's nothing personal about it in reality. Of course, ultimately, because the soul's there, there's you can say the manifestation, interaction of these things go on with material nature's inert. But from the real point of view, there is no actual, it's just, it's not you, me, or anyone else. It's just these things will go on because the three modes of nature are there, and you happen to be stuck in that body at that time, which is influenced by a particular mode. But the whole idea is to rise above it and manifest the actual qualities, to actually come in contact with Krishna, and to become purified in the presence of Krishna. In the presence of Krishna, he purifies. He's the Pavitra, he purifies our consciousness. Just have to expose our consciousness, just like last night we were also mentioning Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj The one who thinks he can be a reformer of this world is in need of reform. No one can reform this world but by the breadth of one hair. Everything is perfectly arranged and guided by the Supreme Lord. And even those who appear to be reformers are simply instruments in the Lord's hands. The only reform which is required is a reform of our own perception of the world, not the world. And that is evoked by exposing ourselves to the sound, pure sound vibration of the holy name. Same point, to expose ourselves, some another, to Krishna. And just like in the old days when you had cameras, some still have the cameras with film inside. Mostly it's now digital, but then they had the film cameras still there, of course. Good photographers still use them generally, and they're a little bit more sharp. So the film camera, you expose the film, the negative, to the sun, it's all wiped out, blank, isn't it? There's nothing there, it's all blacked out. If it's exposed in the dark room, then you get so many pictures. So when we expose ourselves in front of Krishna, we become purified. The negative becomes blanked out. We have to expose ourselves in front of Krishna. It takes a little time, but that's what's going on. We don't really, surrender that much, maybe a little bit. So it takes a little time. This is the mercy of Krishna. He's given us this opportunity, for whatever reason, to hear about him, chant about him, worship him, serve him, and so on. And just by that activity alone, the heart, the consciousness can become purified. The mind, which the soul is perceiving or experiencing through consciousness, it has to be filled more and more and more with remembrance of Krishna. The demons, Canto and Shishupal saw their minds were full of thoughts of Krishna, negative maybe. But we may not speak, therefore Krishna says, Tasmat Sareshi Kalachi Mamadishmi. In all your activities, be conscious of me. Always try to see Krishna in everything. Try to see Krishna everywhere, not just in the temple, not just in the book or, deity, whatever. But try to see him everywhere. Krishna is everywhere. Be conscious of Krishna. He's present everywhere. He's with us always. Everything's going on under his direction. Different ways of remembering Krishna. Even the thoughts that come into our minds, everything, although, direct where the cause, but ultimately that also is allowed by Krishna. Krishna is behind everything. The people we meet, those nasty persons who don't respect us, they think they're devotees, but they're not really devotees. I'm not going to hang around here with these people. Everything's allowed by Krishna. He wants to purify us of this basic root problem of the false ego of identifying ourselves with what we're not. This material body, the material world, the mind, the intellect, and so on. And to release us that, and to free us from this bondage of the material world. So Krishna arranges situations. That's his equality for every living entity according to their karma and desire. And when someone takes to devotional service, Krishna also, Prabhupada describes how it's not exactly a sinful reaction. When we suffer or enjoy, it's that this Krishna is placing these things there because they're just suitable to give us the chance to get free from the false ego. We may not take it like that. That means delayed action, so to speak, before we surrender. But that's what's happening. The people who we're working under, the people who are linked, who are associated with, it's all not happening by chance. Krishna's hand is working behind everything for our benefit ultimately. But like a child doesn't see that the parents sometimes chastising the child is for the child's benefit. It takes it being that my parents, I hate you, sometimes they say. I hate you! I've heard children say to their parents, I hate you, just because they wouldn't give the child an extra sweet or something. Whatever, the parents don't take it, they understand the child. But Krishna understands, he doesn't, we don't know, we're so dark and ignorant. He's reciprocating and trying to help us to, for our own benefit, putting us in different situations. Ultimately, the whole material souls for that, to reform the soul, to wake the soul up, to deliver the soul up to God. So this subject carries on, it looks like, for a few more verses. Maybe we'll be able to go even further into that. It's a very extraordinary subject, which is absolutely wonderful. Another one of those Puranic myths, as we say. We were reading last night, Puranic myths. They don't understand. People are so limited in their perception and so self-centered that we're the only people in the world and in the universe that exist. We've only existed for a few thousand years, and we're the only intelligent ones that ever existed. Isn't that what it is? The only intelligent beings that ever existed in ever, anywhere, at any time, happen to be us. Pretty intelligent statement, isn't it? Talk about false ego. 100% false ego. You don't get very far when you have 100% false ego. You have to go through a lot of realization before you realize you're not. Okay, we're finished there. We've gone overtime, man. No, you Australians don't pay for overtime. You get charged for overtime sometimes. You get chastised for overtime. Okay. Come on, demons. Make some points. Let's hear some. Where's Shishapal? Is he here? Here he is. Shishapal.
Cut my head off. I was just wondering, like, when someone's regularly practicing Krishna consciousness, do they have to have all these horrible images going through their mind, and then Jagannath appears, or Radha Gopinath, and it gets cut out, or we just don't have to be bothered seeing all that?
Sometimes, yeah. It's we see, for various reasons. Sometimes you do experience something from Prabhupada describes. Sometimes, the token reactions, or what you have to go through, sometimes are seen in dreams. Or living life. The whole point of those horrible things is that Krishna wants us to take shot. I'll tell you frankly, for a long time I had a nightmare last night. A real nightmare. And I'll tell you why I had a real nightmare. I analysed it, and I think that's why. It was Krishna's grace, it had to happen. But it was amazing. Somebody sent me this video last night. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's from Prague. I've never seen anything in my life like it, any time. It was unbelievable. It was like a video of hell. Real hell. And the devotees were there at the same time in the middle of it. This was the video. It was a real video, real live video in Prague. I think it was Prague. I kind of turned it off. I didn't turn it off. I just kind of closed shot once it was finished. I didn't study the entire text. But I think it was Prague. And it was unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable video. It was thousands upon thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people dressed up, with fierce, with teeth coming out, with blood dripping down, with hairs and looking awful. And they're walking along just like monsters, and they're actually behaving like monsters. Complete monsters. Thousands upon thousands walking through the streets in parade. Some of them are there with axes and, whips and all sorts of things. Tens of thousands of young people.
It's like a festival there or something.
Some kind of demoniac festival. Unbelievable. Going through the main streets of Prague. And the devotees are going the opposite way in ecstasy chanting. And, it was, I've never seen anything quite, we see individuals or small groups, but not like a mass parade like this. And they look so horrific. I mean, they really were horrific looking. So many of them, more or less, some of them were more and some were less. But it was absolutely astonishing to see the mentality of people behind this. They're just preparing themselves for their next, future births. Of course, they've been freed by the mercy of the holy name. Some of them were actually putting their hands up. Some of them were coming at us with axes like this, different things. All sorts of things. Absolutely bizarre. Have anyone seen them? You saw that video?
I've seen similar parades.
Huh?
I've seen similar parades.
Have you really?
I've seen photos.
I've never seen it before. And we've seen so many prayers, but I've never seen one like that before. Absolutely incredible. So those figures were coming up in my dream. And I dreamt last night, they were all attacking me. Like, mass attack. It was amazing. And, what to do. But Krishna's just telling you, whatever it is, you're going to be faced with so many death is not an easy thing. And you've got to take shot of the holy name. There's no other choice, whatever happens. Just keep chanting Hare Krishna. As the devotees were doing. Just keep chanting Hare Krishna. For some reason, so Krishna wants us to take shot of him. And if that's necessary, then maybe sometimes we have to face those real trials, those situations. If it's not necessary, it's a different thing. Sometimes we have to show it. It's not just in devotional service. It's going to be, we're just going to have nice pictures, living in a holy place with nice, beautiful peacocks and parrots, chanting of Hare Krishna all day long. Prasad just comes its way, and it's just, it's so ecstatic, this Krishna consciousness. Maybe, sometimes you have to face, the deep-rooted fact that we may still be trying to enjoy. And sometimes it's taken away when you see the other side of this material world, the actual reality of this material world, a miserable place. And that way you get freed of the roots can be cut out of karma. If you have any trace karmas can be cut out when we pass that test and take shot of Krishna. In the midst of those difficult, not we're always planning for comfort. Death is not comfort. If we still have roots which are in any way still self-centered, then something's going to happen to cut those things out. I want to get out of this place. Krishna, save me. This is hellish. Isn't it? Haven't you experienced that sometimes? Huh? Shishapal? Have you experienced that? Haven't you had enough?
I have. Long time ago.
Even if we have a still token reactions, it's only to purify us, to completely release us, and to really bring us to the point of full surrender to Krishna. Amen. Different trials, and the pure devotees also go through these trials to show us how to pass these tests, just like Haridas Thakur. And show us how to pass the test. You're into Namala, always take shot of the holy name. Yes, Mother?
I was just wondering, Maharaj, when you said we have to expose ourselves to Krishna, what does that mean exactly?
It doesn't mean. One time I was given a class in London on the back of the Vedanta Manor, and this probably not this chapter, because it's 40 years ago, I can't remember. But it was something, and the whole class was about, surrendering to Krishna, giving everything to Krishna, and so on. And after the class, everybody left for prasadam. As usual, the class was late, and everyone went to the prasadam to get prasadam. One boy stayed behind. He was a hippie. He had long hairs. I think it was his first time in the temple. He stayed behind, and I had some service to do for the deities at that time. I did some flower arranging and stuff. And when I came out of the paraphernalia room, this boy was still in the temple, and he was stood in front of Krishna naked. He'd taken off all of his clothes and then put them on the altar in front of Krishna. He was stood there naked. So in one sense he exposed himself to Krishna. But that's not what it means.
He surrendered everything.
Huh?
Surrendered everything.
He surrendered. He probably didn't have much else. Maybe he had nothing else. He probably put his joint there as well in front of his LSD or whatever he was on. Probably all went on the altar. I didn't have a clean-up job. I just had to sound the alarm job, and it was very nicely and very, understanding. Escorted him out the temple and explained a little bit more about the philosophy. I don't know what they did with his clothes. I'm not sure. I probably gave it back to him, yes. But anyway, that's not what it means. It means that as much as possible, we have to surround ourselves or fill our life up with activities, thoughts, associations in relationship with Krishna. There's still blockages there. There's still blockages there. But as much as possible, hear, chant, remember, worship, tasmadikena manasabhagavan sattatam. Patihi shrotavilkititavyasthyate pujastinicita. Therefore, ultimately, with one pointed attention, one wants to hear about, chant, remember, worship the personality of Godhead. That's the process of removing Kamendriya, Yashyan, what's that verse? Kamendriya, Samya, Yastin, in other words. But Yadanajas, not Yukta Kamagati, Bandhan, Chindati, Kodas, Testa, Koda, Kurikatanti. But one cuts the attachment or the bondage to this material by remembering the personality of God. Therefore, we will not pay attention to his message. We have to try to fill our lives hearing, chanting, serving. That's what goes in. Krishna comes in these forms: the holy name, devotion service, devotees, temples, books. The whole world is a form of Krishna. And we can do that with our try to see the world, try to see everything as the energy of Krishna, see Krishna's hand working behind everything, and wherever we are, in one sense, we're exposed to Krishna. Even in these situations where people are dressed up like demons, but whatever it is this another form of Krishna's, you can say perversion, is another form of Krishna's energy. It's allowed by him, he's behind it. He allows it to happen. It's all because of desire, karma, and from his side trying to wake us up to action. So we can see Krishna in everything, we need to try to practice that. But hearing and chanting is the primary exposure, basically, in this age, and Kali particularly. So try to always have kirtan going on, try to chant whenever you get the time, chant extra rounds, whatever you can do. Devotional service is also, of course, very purifying, preparing us. That's the process so we can actually become absorbed in chanting and hearing in the pure sense of the term. Serving those devotees who are free to all vice great service is done. By such service, one gains an affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So they're all connected. There are many Nitya-Dhammas and there are Nitya-Dhammas. There are activities which are permanent and there are activities which lead to permanence. They're all important and people have to be, but this is human society is meant that people are engaged in a way which is favourable for their progress, and it won't be exactly the same thing as it is for everybody. For those who are trying to become pure devotees, we endeavour to, as much as possible, fill our lives with activities which will remind us of Krishna, directly, indirectly, whatever way it may be, as much as possible. So when we're in the bewildered state, distressed state, threatened state, we cry Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Depends on Krishna. So that's another aspect of this. Externals are not appearing to be favourable or related to, let's say, Krishna consciousness. They cause us to take shelter of Krishna. Sometimes the negative situations are actually better in that sense. Krishna knows what's best for us. He places in different situations, but the whole point of it all is that for us to take shelter of Krishna, to call to Krishna. We realize this humility to not appease in each other, that we have no other shelter. It's not some temporary, material, reflective quality of some, quiet person who just does what they say. Okay, maybe it is, but it's not like that, or in the most form. If somebody realizes I have no other shelter than Krishna, that's humility. I on my own cannot. So they're always taking shelter of Krishna in every situation. Okay, we better finish there. We'll be finished. It's 9:05, and service has to be done. And for the sake of the purpose of pleasing Prabhupada and Krishna, and to also connect other living entities with Krishna consciousness. And we hope you have a great day on Sankirtan. As we're going on Sankirtan, it will be a great day, no matter what the results, because that's the most pleasing activity to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just try your best to distribute Prabhupada's books, or distribute the holy name, or prashad, whatever it is you're doing. Try to see every activity as Sankirtan. Daily worship is also Sankirtan. We're worshiping the Lord in such a way, of course, to hopefully to purify our hearts and please Him, but so other people will also be inspired to surrender to Krishna. teachings also of Sankirtan, hoping that people will be inspired, purified by honoring our prashadam. Everything the devotee does should be Sankirtan, especially the direct preaching of the philosophy or the message of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I believe we're going on Harinam, is that correct? Tonight? Is that right? Yes. What time? Where?
6:30 at Town Hall.
6:30 at the Town Hall. Wonderful. 6:30 at the Town Hall.
Next to Woolworths or something that says on the...
Next to Woolworths.
Town Hall the suburb or Town Hall the... Town Hall building.
You're here, I'm sure you'll see over here.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't get down over here a few yards away. Be chanting, I'm sure I'll make some sounds. Town Hall, Woolworths. Huh? I was born in Woolworths. Didn't I? I was born in Woolworths.
Really?
Yeah, my mother told me I was born in Woolworths.
Really?
She said they bought me in Woolworths. I don't know what age we got it young. First time I asked her whatever age it was, a few years old, I guess. I said, where did I come from? I said, we bought you in Woolworths. I'll have to go and see if there's any babies in Woolworths or not. I actually did next time I went when I was old enough to understand what that meant. I went to Woolworths to see where the baby store was. I asked her, where are the babies? Didn't know what to say. Baby clothes with no babies. So then I was born under a gooseberry bush. And I worked in a gooseberry farm. I still didn't see any babies in the gooseberry bush. Anyway, people, same thing, you don't tell things which people can't understand. It's strange to that. There's no point. Something beyond that. It's just like here, brothers. You're not a qualified listener. You don't delve deeply into these topics of Vasalila. Or rather, you go back to people for most intimate aspects of devotional service. We're not ready for it. We may hear about it, understanding we have to prepare ourselves. We're not quite ready for it yet. Just like in college, you're not ready yet to take the degree. You have to go through the ropes. You know what the goal is. You know that's the goal, but you're not ready for it yet. You go step by step until you're actually ready. It's automatic. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shri Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You going back to the town today, or what's the plan? We'll see you this evening, is that the idea? And the whole party is going back? How many of you are from downtown? Who's from the downtown? Who's come uptown from downtown? Put your hands up. Who's from the downtown? 1, 2, 3, 4 ladies? 4 ladies? We're not from the downtown? From the uptown. And men? You're the only man from downtown.
I'm live down the road.
You're in between. Up and down.
Some of the others
Up
visit
and
the
down,
downtown.
up and down. Sometimes up, sometimes down.
There's some guests also come to
Also
the program.
the-
Also regularly there.
King's Cross. Huh?
Yeah.
Amazing place, isn't it? It's something about the King's Cross, you know. I remember it basically started in the King's Cross. You know, certain places are like that, you know. They may be very degraded, but it's like, in some ways, they're kind of like there's some kind of energy there. It's just clicks. From the go, we had a temple there for so many years, right? The cross, different places, and eventually the cross. Tell me about that cross. You should take our boys. We're ready. We should take them to the cross. Oh, we're going to go the next Tuesday. Next Tuesday?
Yes.
Good. Okay. What's this? Crow's Nest. Crow's Nest? We're in Crow's Nest.
Crow's Nest, North Sydney.
Crow's Nest. You can go. You've been to Crow's Nest? You don't go. Great for right now.
Isn't that the highest part of Crow's Nest is like on the top of a tree? So
Top of the tree, that's up the hill there.
yeah, so it's like we're on the
Very
top of the
good.
world here in the temple and Crow's Nest. Transcendental crow.
Hare Krishna. Looking for crows, at least crow for Krishna.